Okay, I think we're good. All right, folks. So this is flatting process for Guten Tag number 124. So as always, I'm going to release this after the strip comes out so that you guys don't see it first and ruin the comic strip or whatever. This basically is just showing you the process of how I go through here and flat everything. So let me just adjust everything here just so you can see it better. And my delay is a little bit timed out. Actually, this isn't 124. Okay. All right, so this is how I start. So I'm flatting number 124. And what I've done is I've already gone ahead and opened up a previous episode that I saved. So I'm at the stage right now where I'm going to take my inked page that I've already flatted, or that I've already inked, I'm sorry. And I've already scanned it into my computer with my printer. And I've opened it in Photoshop. And now I need to go ahead and start prepping it for color flatting. So what you see right now is me looking at the scan page that I've scanned in for the latest episode. And this is a little bit different. So usually what I do is I scan in 2 pages for a total size of like 11 by 17. And then I've already got all my kind of settings set up for that. But this time I've just gone with 1 page, or 1/2 of the page, or whatever you want to call it. 1/2 of the strip size. So I've actually scanned it in, but I've got to save it down to like an 8.5 by 11 file. Actually, yeah, 8.5 by 11. And then from there I'll go ahead and start flatting. So what I'm going to do is what I usually do for each of my strips. As you can see, I've scanned it in and it's not 100% black and white. You can still see some of the gradation or the gray of the ink where it's kind of bled into the page some. So what I do here is the first step in my flatting process, which is to prepare my inks, my inked pages. First thing I do is I'm going to rotate my artwork so that it is as square to a 90-degree angle as possible. Just so it's a little bit more pleasant when you're reading it on the page, it's not all crooked and doesn't look weird. So I'm going to take this ruler and just kind of see where I am, if I need to rotate anything. And I'm actually pretty close there. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, and I'm not trying to go too crazy on this. I don't feel like it needs to be rotated at all. So I'll just leave it how it is. I'm fine. I like the little imperfections that show that you did this by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next step here, which is I'm going to save this, or crop this rather, to 8.5 by 11. Oops. So I'll go up here. I'm in Photoshop, by the way. Sorry, Adobe Photoshop. So I've opened my file up in Photoshop, and I'm going to make some adjustments here. I'm going to send it over to Clip Studio Paint to do the flatting, and then I'll bring it back into Photoshop to finish up coloring and add the dialogue and save the final files that I can upload to the website, to the web rather. So I'm going to crop this to an 8.5 by 11 page, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag this, drag this up. Man, Photoshop, why you gotta be weird? Okay. Drag it up and get a decent amount of space around. That's probably right. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to save it to 8.5 by 11, but I just want to have the file saved to that essentially. You know what I could do is I could see how many pixels this page is, huh? Yeah, let's see. 5032 by 6512 pixels. Okay. What is this one? So why are you at scanned at 600? That's weird. I don't remember it telling it to change the resolution here. Huh. Okay. Alright, so let me just fumble my way through this as usual. It's always a little bit different when I do it one page because 5032 I'm used to doing 2 pages at a time. But when I do one page, it actually saves me half the time, surprisingly. Let's go there. That's good. I'm looking at the pixel here, and I can actually go 5032 6512. Yep. Yeah, go ahead. Okay. And what that did was that went ahead and snapped me into half of the page size that I'm used to working with, and that's just going to give me a good baseline to go ahead and make all of my adjustments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my threshold so that I can turn this into black and white line art. So I have a little action saved here in Photoshop, and it's, I don't know if I need to go through the same steps because I've already did this a little bit differently than I'm used to doing. So I'll just do this the long way. So I go up here to image mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to threshold, adjustments, and threshold. Okay. And what I like to do, I'll drag this onto the canvas so you can see it. I like to set my threshold at 160, which gives me a thick enough line for the ink that I do. And then when I zoom in, you can see that it's pretty bold. The lines are all closed off. I don't really have any open lines. It's not looking too grainy and looking pretty clean and crisp still. So I just start off at this point, and I'll just go through and I will just start. Yeah, so here's what I do. I go through, and sometimes like when you do threshold on line art, it will create these little fuzzies or little specks of black that you didn't see before, and then you have to go through and just kind of clean them up if you want to get rid of them. They look like, just like dust or speckles or whatever, specks. So I'm just going to go through here preemptively and pull this little maneuver, which I basically just select everything outside of the panel borders. Yeah, so I have to do, because I'm trying to select the area out, where there might be these little specks. So I'll go through and I'll select everything and I'll just delete it all. And that will save me having to go through and like hunt down little specks or anything like that. Might take me longer than usual, but I think we're fine. Make sure I get inside of here, these panel borders. You might have a better way of doing this, but I've just kind of just gone with this when I do my pages. If you guys can hear that in the background, that's just a room. It's a fan, a room fan. It's kind of hot up here right now. Trying to keep a little bit cool, so hopefully that sounds like white noise when I don't talk. Then you got something to listen to in the background there. All right, so let me delete that. Yep, set to white. Cool. And I'll just go in and I'll see if I need to touch up anything else. What I also, yep, see, look at that guy. Oops. Hey, dude, what are you doing here? Okay. So I'll just go around my panels, see if I find any spots like that, and I'll just get rid of them, paint over them, or erase them, whatever. Nope. I do want to get rid of the date there. I'll throw in my own text that'll have the date on it. Oops. Stop it. Stop it. Okay. Actually, I don't want to use that. That is a... Ah, man, I just need a straight up brush here. There we go. Perfect. I want to get 100% black and white line art. I don't want any pixels in between. No gray. Because that will make the line art look fuzzy. Fuzzy when you print it. Alright, I'm good with that. Wasn't a lot of stuff going on with the strip, so it's pretty simple. Do I need to thicken up any lines? Let me look it over and see. This might be, oops. I might fill in some areas just where I think it's going to be too close to the line and it might read weird, so I'll just fill in little spots, any little spots that are unnecessary or distracting. Like that. That didn't read very well when I scanned it in. I'm going to keep that there on his head because it looks manually created. Okay, so this guy though, I want to get rid of these. I don't like these because it's a spatial thing. I went past his face there. Okay. Alright, keep going. That looks fine, I'm fine with that, it's good. Yeah, I'll tighten that up a little bit. Looks cool. Maybe I'll thicken that up a tad. There we go. Just so it looks a little bit nicer there. Okay. Looks like he's got eyelashes or something. Let me scale that back a little bit. Not too much though, it's fine. Okay. Might be too distracting. Yeah, another spot where I want to make it pretty clear what I'm doing there. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. He's sitting in one of those gamer chairs that sit on the ground. Actually, I'm going to make his eyeball a little bit more even there on the right. That's good. Gonna get the blank zombie stare of too many video games. You guys probably all know what that's like. When you've played one too many video game and your eyes are about to bleed out of their sockets. Okay. Those are for all my German fans that I don't have yet. And no number. I'm going to just tweak that a little bit. Cool. Awesome. I like it. Okay. So that was the first step. What I'm going to do is I will save it as a Photoshop file. PSD. Save as. Guten Tag strip 124. I'll go back to the previous one just to get the file name consistent. This is my inks file. If you notice, I've got a file for my pencils, a file for my inks, and a file for my flatting or my flat color. I don't know, I might get rid of some of these files. They start to add up, and they're not really necessary. The pencils files actually are the biggest file size, so I'm not really sure yet if I'll get rid of those. I might get rid of those. I don't know if I need that anymore. It's digital anyway. I didn't do it by hand, so I can always recreate it. So I'm going to save this into my folder. I already got it set up. I'm going to save my file as a Photoshop PSD document. So here's the next step. I color the flat colors in Clip Studio Paint because it takes a little bit less time, a little bit faster, more intuitive, and it's a little bit easier, I guess. And I don't have to use the lasso tool, which anyone who uses Photoshop knows what that is and how you can get kind of burnt out on using it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close up Photoshop so I can free up some memory on my computer. So I will save this. I'll keep it in RGB color format, color space, since I am uploading these to the web at the moment and I don't need to have CMYK files yet, and those are what you use for actually printing the pages when you go to make a book. So CMYK files, since they have an additional color channel, they take up more space as a file than an RGB file does. So it's a tip for you. You don't need to save CMYK files until you're going to use them to actually send them off or to be used in print. So keep it RGB. Some of these new printers, I guess, like companies that print, they even want you to just send it to them in RGB. Maybe because they can convert it to their color space easier. But you always got to make sure that the color looks right, because when you switch color from RGB to CMYK, you're actually going from a larger color space to a smaller or more narrow color space. So RGB has actually a wider, bigger range of colors that you can achieve since it is light. It's light based. It's based on additive color. No, I'm sorry, subtractive. I can't remember. Anyways, the color space is larger. So if you go to CMYK, what happens sometimes is if you take a really strong blue color or a red that's closer to purple, sometimes those will, if you convert that from RGB color space to CMYK, sometimes those will like completely change, and it'll look a little bit less vibrant, less colorful basically, because it's going to a color space that has to be duplicated or achieved on paper using ink, and that's just a whole different ball game. So it does its best to get to the closest possible color to match that, but it's not going to be 100% perfect. So anyways, save it in RGB. That's how I do it. I'm going to work in RGB color space until I am ready to put these together for a book, and then at that point, then I'll probably save TIFF files or PSD files or something, and then get that going. So next step, I'm going to open up Clip Studio Paint, which is a nice little program, and I don't use it as much as other people use it. Nope. So I don't use it as much as a lot of people use it that are professional comics creators, but it is very, very handy for what I need it for, which is flatting. They've got some nice tools that make the flatting process, the color flatting process, a lot easier than Photoshop does. I'm going to drag this over. One day I'll figure out what's going on and why it doesn't automatically open all of my tools, panes or whatever correctly. Hey, where are you going? There we go. I've got two monitors going on right now. I've got my laptop and then I've got a digital monitor, and I'm dragging stuff over to it. That's what's going on. So I'm going to drag the toolbar over, and then I'll get started. Again, I don't know why it doesn't just snap this in when I load it up, but one day I'll figure it out. Okay, let me open up my Photoshop file that I just saved. going to try to be as fast as I can because I don't want to take too much time doing this stuff tonight. Okay. And actually, I might split this up into 2 videos. So color, nope, what am I doing? What am I doing? Inks. Alright. And I will open up the inked, or the flat file from 120 as well, just so I can go back and compare what I did back then. Okay, let me drag that over to the board. Man. Okay. Alrighty. Alright. So here is number 120. And you can see this is my final flatted, final colored file. So I'm going to keep the same structure basically. When I come into page 124, you'll notice that I've got 1 layer when I start out. So I'm going to unlock that layer. I am going to go up to selection, color gamut. I'm going to select the white. Okay. Zoom in there, make sure everything is okay. And I'm going to delete. And that'll give me just black line art. And then I'm going to add another layer, fill that with, oops, let me go to white here. I'm going to fill that with white. And no, I didn't do it. Cool. Awesome. So that will be my background layer. So I can see my color in contrast to the white of the background page. And then I'll add another layer, and I will call this one flats. This is my flat color layer. This is my background. This is my line art layer. That's my simple flatting layer for now, or flatting layer setup, whatever. I'm going to save this as, keep saving it. So the cool thing about Clip Studio is you can open up Photoshop files in Clip Studio, PSD files, and it will keep your layer structure. That's really nice. So, okay, next step is, I don't know if there's a faster way to do this. Maybe there is. I haven't spent time trying to figure it out. But I will convert my line art layer to a vector layer. So before I do that, I've found that when I try to convert that layer to a vector layer, it'll turn any solid black filled areas into an outline. So I'll actually lose that fill within there. So what I do is I go ahead and I select that, and then I'll probably have to figure this out, but that's okay. I'll select that, and then I'll go and select this text as well. Sometimes it does it here. So I'll just select these 2 and I'll cut them out for now. Oops. And then I will go to the layer, line art layer, and I'll show you what happens when I convert it to a vector art layer. And then I'll go and I'll convert it to a vector artwork layer. So I go to convert layer. And the reason why I convert it to vector art is so that I can really quickly do my flats, and what it will do is it will fill the flat color inside of an area. Say for this example, my character's face here, Lex. If I click a green, fill in his face with green, and this is a vector layer, it will actually fill on my flat layer. It'll fill it to the midpoint of the black line art layer above. So instead of stopping at the edge of it, the outside or the inside edge of that black line art, it will actually it will fill it to the middle of it. And that's nice because that's going to give me the right coverage I want when and if this actually gets printed. It just makes it look nicer when you actually go to print it. So I'm gonna go, and it doesn't have any, it won't have like any white pixels that you can see because it'll fill it underneath that black line art. So I'm gonna switch it into a vector layer. Um, you can fool with that stuff. I'm not going to. Density threshold. I don't want to mess with that. I just hit OK. And boom. It's vector artwork. And why is that so cool? Because you can treat it almost like a vector line. It's cool. Watch this. I can cut right through it, or different things you can mess with. Makes it a little bit easier to play with, and other things with it. I don't know. People can explain it better, but for my purposes, it's for coloring. It's so that it fills to the middle point of that line. So, good example. I'm going to save, and I'm going to go ahead also while I'm remembering this. I'm going to paste. Come on. Ah, where is it? No. Paste. Where is it? Man. There we go. So I pasted my masthead back on there, and then I also pasted my Deutsche Sprache down there. Deutsche. Okay. Let me cut that out too. I don't like that. Get out of here. All right. So now I've got a vector line art layer, which is awesome. Okay. So I'll show you what that means. I think I've shown you guys this before, but just for a refresher, I'm going to grab some color here, grab my little paint bucket, and when I see I'm on this layer that says flats, which means the stack or the orientation, it's underneath the line art, right? So if I click inside of his head, it filled in that area, right? It filled it in with color. But if I go up here to the line art layer and I pull my opacity down to like 50 or 60, you can see that that color went past the little edge here of the line art and it went to the middle point of it. So if I didn't have this saved as a vector layer, that color would just stop like right here. And then sometimes when you save stuff in Photoshop, if you save it down to a lower resolution JPEG, you'll see like the little white, in between the color and the black line. Sometimes it doesn't look the best. So that's the way I do it. I'm thinking about the future. Hopefully I'll print these in a book that I can sell to people one day. So I want to set myself up correctly from the start, and that is the way to do it as far as I'm concerned. And I can do that later too. This stuff, like where it just leaves lines, man, I don't have time to fill that in right now. I'll do it later. So anyways, yeah, so here's the process, right? I don't have to do any selection. I don't have to like make any selection with the lasso tool. I can simply click and drag. Sorry, I had a cough there. So click and drag, that's all you gotta do to fill. Click, drag, click. I do have to be careful sometimes if you drag it and on accident you like fill in the space behind the line. I don't know why. Normally I put the backgrounds in first, but for now I started with the character foreground, so that's fine. Oh yeah, see what happened here? So this is what happened to my black line art when I hit it. When I switched it over to a vector, it turned it to an outline. So what I'm gonna do is, I wonder if I can do it here. No. I can switch it back when I get into Photoshop. So I won't worry about it right now. I will just fill that with color. Okay. I'm going to grab like a 90 or 80%. And that will pop. Yep. Okay. Okay. I'm used to using Photoshop and Illustrator at my job, graphic design company. So when I get to use this program, it's a little bit nice for you can kind of combine both things. I can use vector artwork in Clip Studio, and I can also use pixel or raster artwork. It's neat, huh? So let's give him a little bit lighter color there for the drool. Drool. You guys guess what video game he's playing? Huh? That's right. Oh, guess my stream stopped here. Okay, I think we're back. Sorry about that. The stream stopped. I lost the stream. It's like Finding Nemo. I lost the stream or whatever. Hey, good thing I had a previous episode that I could just pull my color from. Okay. One of the comics creators that I really like, even now, I look back at his stuff is Charles Schultz, Peanuts. Um, I don't know. He always had like a really simple. I'm looking at like one of his books from the 1950s, early 1950s, and he just had a really like simplified style that wasn't trying to do too much, and it was just trying to be, consistent all the time. And I noticed that like he'll reuse some scenes and stuff that are pretty similar. There's no need to reinvent the wheel if you already got uh, the same area. You don't need to like redraw a couch or chair in a totally different way than you've done before. What just happened there? Especially if it's not the main focal point, right? You don't want to draw attention to it. You want them to have their attention on what they should be focusing on. Okay, what book is he reading? I don't know. What kind of books would Rector read? He'd probably be reading nonfiction, history, biography, stuff of that nature, philosophy, religion, theology, stuff you read in school, history class and stuff. Plato, I don't know, stuff we had to read in college. That's kind of what I always give them, stuff to read like that. So let me give them like a old looking book jacket color, like a olive green, because it's not, I don't want it to stand out too much, so I'm going to make it like that. Yeah. And we'll put like the little stripe here. Oops. Make that a little bit more yellow. It's like books from the 50s or whatever. The binding. Actually, you know what? Watch this. I'm going to select that color there. I'm going to go, okay. Change that to a red. There we go. And that just changes it across the board there. Yep. Okay. There you go. Yeah, I like Charles Schultz. Some of his early like Peanuts, it's kind of funny. I don't know. These little kids from the 50s were definitely not politically correct by today's standard. There's I don't know. They're kind of funny. They're just like calling each other names and stuff, and just sometimes they had no chill. Funny stuff. But what I like about Peanuts is it's I don't want to say wholesome, but yeah, I mean it's not like he wasn't pushing the boundaries. He was trying to make something relatable to everybody and something that you could be proud of. Wasn't trying to like, this isn't. They didn't have Facebook. They didn't have Instagram. He just had a newspaper that he was doing this every day. So he was making something that would appeal to younger people. In my, I haven't read a bunch of interviews, but just from what I've kind of like, gotten from it is he's trying to, get the appeal to kids, to adults, um, something that can be enjoyed by both people, I guess. Um, yeah, I don't know. I know the characters kind of, it's cool to see how the characters have changed over time, but some of the things the jokes are like, they worked back then from the 50s, but it's funny. I like how the characters kind of have all their different quirks and stuff. You start to see Charlie Brown like become more and more depressed or whatever, cynical. Like when he started out, he was a bit more like cranky, I guess. He was more sure of himself, and then started to get a little bit more cranky. And yeah, I always enjoy it. I've also been reading Crazy Cat, this book from the 20s, the strip from the cartoon strip from like the early 19 teens and the 20s. And the whole premise, well, it's a weird, I don't, it's kind of like not really a premise to the story. It's, you know, um, that is too strong. It's kind of like this weird love triangle between Crazy Cat, Ignatz, Mouse, and Officer Pup. And Crazy Cat thinks that the mouse is in love with him, and the mouse, Ignatz, hates Crazy Cat and always tries to hit him with a brick. I'm saying him and her because, well, one of them's a her. I can't remember if it's the mouse, if it's Ignatz or Crazy Cat, but so one of them's always trying to throw a brick at the other one, and the cat, Crazy Cat, interprets that as like, you know, affection. That's his or her. I think it's a her. I think Crazy is a her. That's her love language, or whatever. And then Officer Pup is always trying to stop the mouse. It's funny. It was kind of like the inspiration for Calvin and Hobbes and other comic strips. So it's neat to see how all that stuff, how it kind of inspired all those things. But he uses a lot of dialect in his work, which is awesome. It's cool, but it's like hard to read. So you'd be trying to read through it, and you can't really. You have to like the way he writes the dialogue is very heavy, like dialect going on, and you gotta like go through it a couple times until you. Sometimes you don't really get it right at first, but I like it. He uses a lot of alliteration. Um, he'll just use a lot of colloquialisms that were popular at the time, I guess. Sometimes they're just weird. There's not really a big story going on. It's just kind of always showing them getting into trouble and trying to trick each other. He always I don't know the book I was reading. There's like a collection, and I think Fantagraphics. I think they're the ones that publish it, and they've been publishing collections of his stuff. And he worked in like a lot larger format than people work in newspapers, definitely today, but even in the 50s and 60s and onward, like he had like a full page to work with, so he'd have like a giant vertical format and just draw on these crazy panel layouts and everything, and then he'll number them, and like, he'll have to you try to follow it, and you're like, what? Where is he going with this? And it's pretty cool. I enjoy reading it. I might get some more later, but I just started with one. I don't know what year it was. I don't know if it's like the. I don't think it's the first collection. I think it's like halfway through. Um, but that gives me some inspiration for like how they dealt with like gags and different things. Okay, I'm gonna start shading him because he's in the dark here. This is like his video game room, right? So where's the light source coming from? Up there, I guess, in the ceiling or something. Okay. Yeah, I really do want to make graphic novels. Whoa. But I think just for now, the amount of time I have to spend on stuff, I'd rather kind of put something out here on a more frequent basis, and then just get I just have to like get the process down, I guess, um, just remembering how to grind stuff out and not spend too much time thinking about it because doing graphic novels, man, it is a time it is a time sink, whatever you want to call it. And until you're getting feedback on it and you're getting critique on it, you're not going to see a lot of response to it. If you're not posting a page a day or a week or something, you're not going to see if it's connecting with people. You're kind of like the person who is determining whether or not it's good or what you need to do to change it. Unless you've got like people giving you good feedback and stuff. So I've got some ideas, but I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna need more time to work on some of this stuff. So I wouldn't do graphic novels of Lex and Rector. I think I tried doing like a little bit more lengthy episodes last year, and it just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't feel right. I mean, I liked it. It kind of was giving me some feel for doing comics because I haven't really I haven't never really done an actual comic book, and I've wanted to, but it just didn't really feel right for this story. I feel like this has got to be more of a weekly thing, where you're checking in with them weekly. It's a slice of life type thing. It's not really like they're going on an adventure and there's all these different things. They're developing their character arc and all this stuff. I might play more of like a long game approach with this, where yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to develop their character over time, but um, that might end up being like a lot more pages than if I just did a standalone graphic novel. So, but yeah, I've had ideas for stuff. I've had one idea that I've been working on developing it in my mind over the last 10 or so years, and haven't worked on it in a while, but I'll try to get to it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what's a good color here? I'm going to use like a red. You'll see why. But this idea, it's more of an adventure story. I guess that's like a historical fiction type idea, which means if I'm going to do that, I want to research the time periods that I'm going to write about. So I'm not just making things up, out of my mind. I know people do that, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I feel like the point of the story would need to have that historical accuracy to it. So, but I don't want to give away too much. I might post some stuff or work on some stuff and get that going. Actually, I'm just gonna do a basic thing here. This is supposed to be on the screen, so it's like not supposed to be detailed. I actually want it to look really sloppy. Okay, and then I'm gonna use this just to make my boundaries. Okay. This stuff's got to be like a 1 to 2 color. Yeah, whatever, it's fine. Yep, it's good. Just try to make it sweet, short and sweet. I'll make what game is this? This is Skyrim. Bum, bum, bum. You know, I actually stopped playing video games for a while, and I hadn't played Skyrim when it came out originally back in 2011 or whatever. And I didn't play it until I got married, and we just went on our honeymoon. I found like a video game shop, and it was, like $10 or something. So I just picked it up and I started playing it. And I like these type of games. Like honestly, I'm one of these people that like plays these, um, you know, first person type solo RPG type games. I just wander around and like fight dragons and stuff. That always interesting to me or whatever. I used to be into video games, but don't have the time. Maybe one day when our baby gets a little bit older and she wants to play video games, I'll probably start playing some more. That looks crap. That looks bad. What we're trying to do is just make like a, grass or whatever. Skyrim is cool. Fighting dragons and stuff. I beat the story. I try to do all the main or the side stuff and little stories because you get cool armor and stuff. So okay, and then that color, I'm gonna make that actually more of like a I'll drag some opacity of this. Nope. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to blend this. Why am I not thinking of this correctly? Maybe I can do a gradient. Yeah, there you go, perfect. That's your heads-up display thing. Map or whatever. I don't know what this is. Health. Health bar. Sure. And then I'll go into Photoshop and I'll select that, and then I'll like pull the color settings back a bit. Cool. All right. I think I'm gonna use purple, purplish, whatever this color is. So what I do is I'll, yep, bam, bam. There we go. Okay. Fill that. Yeah. All right. That's it. Flatting for that is done. Save. You know what? Maybe I want to make these a little bit darker so it looks like he's in a darker room. Yeah, there we go. See the darkness. Yeah, see, that didn't even like pick up the color there. I'm gonna drag this down to, oops. Stopped playing video games, and I think it was a good thing for me. I got really addicted to them, really into them. So. Yep, that's good. Looks like he's in a darker room. I might, no, I might. I'm using a Wacom Intuos. I believe it's Intuos 4. What is this? What are you? Intuos 4. So it's kind of old, but it still does the job. I might really been getting my eye on like a iPad Pro, so I can do this all pretty easily, quickly, and digitally. So, all right, so that's it. I'm gonna save this and quit. And I'm actually going to stop the stream right now because it's been about an hour. That's a good place to stop. So this is my flatted page, and I'm going to take this into Photoshop and finish up the coloring and finish up the dialogue. So hope you guys liked it. Hope you got something out of watching this. If you like it, just subscribe, I guess, and then you'll see the next time that I release a video. So till next time, guys, thank you, and share this, and good night.